good afternoon, everyone. Chancellor Syverud, esteemed guests, colleagues, students, friends, welcome to the 73rd Annual Harry E. Salzberg Memorial Lecture Program. My name is Alex McKelvey. I'm Interim Dean here at the Whitman School of Management, and we're delighted to have you join us today. So before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous peoples on whose ancestral lands Syracuse University now stands. The Salzberg program is truly a special event for the Whitman School and our outstanding supply chain management program. And there's a few reasons for why I think it's such a special event. First, it helps to celebrate the excellence of our nationally ranked supply chain management program. Not every university, not every business school has a supply chain program. We have an outstanding one. And part of that is Whitman School actually has the first supply chain program in the nation. Believe it or not, it was started in 1919. So well before supply chain was a popular topic, we were leaders there. And this Salzberg program is truly the crown jewel of that program. So our faculty in the supply chain management area consists of leaders in their fields, journal editors, brilliant thinkers, inspiring teachers, and media influencers who take up a lot of attention and support for the supply chain cause. Second, what I think this program is special about is it really showcases our industry leaders, our talented students, as well as our excellent scholars. It recognizes the innovators and those who are willing to take a stand for what they believe in, rather than what simply are accepted norms within sustainability and within supply chain. These are the types of values and approaches that we try to instill in our students here at Whitman, and your leadership in this area truly will help to inspire them. This event today, the Salzberg program, also reflects many of the most important things that a globally recognized academic program is expected to do. And that is bring together frame-breaking research, teaching our students for being prepared for that next generation, and also deriving and working together best practice from industry. So the list of awardees, if you've seen the program, it's tremendously impressive. And we're so thankful for all of our guests who were able to make it here to Syracuse today. So the third reason why I think this event is so special is because of the topic of this year. The theme for this year is especially relevant as it melds two vitally important areas. It reflects in many cases what we've experienced this last few years, challenges to supply chain, as well as an issue that'll certainly be a guiding light for what is to come in the future, and that is of sustainable and socially responsible business practices. So this important intersection of sustainability, social responsibility, and supply chain management has a deep impact on all of our communities. It affects our everyday lives, whether we recognize it or not. And it will have this transformational role on all of our decision-making and priorities concerning what we source, what we produce, what we sell, and what we dispose of, and how we do all of the things. And it will also be pervasive beyond our current generation, but for multiple generations in the future. So as global citizens, as a global business school, as a global university, making sure that everyone's aware of these critical issues is key, and ideally something that all of our students, all of our faculty, all of our staff, all of our partners have deep insights on. And so for that latter reason in particular, I believe this Salzberg program this year is extraordinarily timely and highly pertinent. And I can't think of many more topics on a long list of things that we could be talking about today than what we're doing here at the intersection of sustainability, social responsibility, and supply chain that would be more relevant than now. So many thanks to our organizing team, Professors Julie Niederhoff and Gary Lapointe, the Franklin Supply Chain Management Advisory Board, and the support team for their roles in organizing this event today. So my job here, this is the fun part. I get to be dean, and my job is actually the easiest in the room. So I have three things I get to do. I get to say welcome to all of you. I get to say nice things about my colleagues, and then I get to make an important introduction, and I'll do that right now. So it's now my honor and privilege to introduce Syracuse University's 12th Chancellor and President, Kent Syverud.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Dean McKelvey, excuse me, and thank you for leading the Whitman School at this time of such change and opportunity. It's really an honor to welcome people from near and far to, and including the award winners today, to the 73rd Annual Salzberg Memorial Lecture and Awards. The H.H. Franklin Center for Supply Chain Management is the oldest supply chain management program in the United States. And I give thanks to all the members of the Franklin Supply Chain Advisory Board who led the award selection process. I teach in this room. This is the lender auditorium. I teach negotiation. They gently let a lawyer come in occasionally to teach in the Whitman School. And it's appropriate that this awards be in this room because some of the students may not know who Marvin Lender is or was, but Marvin Lender was a first generation student at Syracuse University who on graduation wanted to go back to work in his family's business, which was a backyard bagel bakery. And at that time, the only people who ate bagels were in Brooklyn, New York, and within an hour drive from Brooklyn. And the only kind of bagels made were plain bagels. And the business wasn't big enough to accommodate him. So the family said, we just don't have enough work for you. So as a good Syracuse college graduate, he figured out how to expand the business. And what he did was he went to visit a Green Giant factory and learned how to freeze bagels. And as a result of that, he solved the supply chain problem, which had limited bagels to Brooklyn, New York, which was they went stale so quickly that they couldn't be transported. And then, of course, having invented a product that could be transported, he had to figure out how to popularize it. So he and his brother taught the world to eat bagels. And if you meet anybody under the age of 45, over the age of 45, the odds are very great that their first bagels were Lender's bagels, which were subsequently sold to Kraft and became a homogenized brand like so many other things. I have to say that thanks to Marvin's teaching to me, I appreciate supply chain issues. But one of the most unexpected outcomes of the pandemic has been suddenly the widespread exposure of everybody to supply chain issues. And seriously, so many people have developed a newfound respect for the complicated work of supply chain professionals. If you don't believe me, talk to anybody who has had an infant and tried to get formula for the last year. Supply chain challenges are, of course, one of the significant reasons why Syracuse University in New York, this part of the region of New York, are going to benefit from what is the largest private investment in the history of New York State, which is a $100 billion investment from Micron Technologies in this region to build the world's largest semiconductor manufacturing plant, which will be in progress very quickly. It's driven by the need for domestic chip manufacturing and a recognition of that at the federal, state, and local level, and a lot of hard work by people, including academics here. Just to give a sense of the scale of that, it will produce 50,000 jobs in Central New York in the next 5 to 7 years. 50,000 jobs is the equivalent of dropping an Eastman Kodak at its peak into Rochester, New York. And those of you who know upstate New York know how significant Eastman Kodak was to Rochester. Today's Salzberg Medallion Award winners are supply chain practitioners and researchers who really brought creative thinking and expert problem solving to their work. This year, the award focused on leaders who have prioritized environmental social governance. And they encourage supply chain decisions that get the job done while being cognizant of the broader well-being of the world and its people and the environment. I thank each of them for joining us today and each of you for being here for the lecture. It's a source of great pride for me and for the university, and I'm looking forward to listening with you to it. Thank you.
Actually, hold on a second. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary Lapointe. I'm a professor of practice in the supply chain department and the co-chair of the Franklin Center and the Salzberg program, along with Professor Julie Niederhoff. And like Dean McKelvey, Chancellor Severud, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Salzberg program this year. What a true pleasure it is to be able to come together once again to participate in events like this after several years of being canceled, watching things from a remote site, wearing our masks. And we've taken for granted the simple freedoms and pleasures of just coming together as a group. And what a joy it is to be able to do that finally. So thank you, Dean McKelvey, for your support and helping to make this day special. A lot of the people that put this together are under Dean McKelvey's different areas of the school. Thank you, Chancellor Severud, as always, for your continued support of our program and of this award. A special welcome to our Salzberg recipients, Dr. Jan Fransoo, and to Patagonia, who's been represented by Todd Soller today. Welcome to our invited guests and Dr. Ann Robinson, and to Sean Cleveland. You hear from those individuals a little bit later. Welcome to the members of our advisory board. We have some advisory board members, several that are watching remotely today. To Dr. Wallen. Maybe some people remember Dr. Wallen, who's a legend here in the supply chain program, whose vision and leadership brought the supply chain program, then called Transportation Distribution Management, or TDM, into the spotlight, into the national spotlight here at Syracuse University. And there's so many former students of his who owe their entire careers and past to Dr. Wallen, including myself, actually. Special welcome to our faculty, administration, students, and visiting guests and alum. So we have a terrific event organized today with some really interesting topics. And nearly all the points you heard Dean McKelvey mention earlier, sustainability, reverse logistics, they're all going to be touched upon this afternoon by our experts. And so you're in for a real treat to hear some of these things discussed in detail from industry practitioners. So to get things going, we're going to begin our program by presenting the Walter K. Zinsmeister Award. So the Zinsmeister Award was created by Mrs. Zinsmeister on behalf of her late husband to recognize an outstanding supply chain student. In addition to the Zinsmeister Award comes a very nice monetary gift as well. So the selection was super difficult this year. We had a lot of outstanding supply chain students, any one of which could have equally received this award. The faculty voting was divided on who we would give this award to. So in selecting the student, we considered GPA, but I think we started off with 6 students, and when we looked at their GPA, there was not 0.2 of a GPA point separating the top 6 of the students. In fact, the top 3 were probably less than 5/100ths of a point. I mean, so we had to look deeper into who we might consider for this. So we looked at involvement and a commitment to the supply chain by their internship experiences. All of the candidates have been on the dean's list their entire career. All are Whitman scholars. All have various recognitions in one area or another. All of them are double majors, but one student demonstrated continued interest in supply chain with 2 really excellent supply chain internships, one of which has led to a full-time position with IBM. And so I think that's terrific. So we are very pleased to award this year's Zinsmeister Award to Trevor Kaminsky. Trevor. Sorry about that. Logistics. So at this point in our program, we're going to make both of our Salzberg presentations and read the Chancellor citations. So the Salzberg medallion, which serves as the award, is a handsome medallion designed and sculpted by the famous Croatian sculptor Ivan Meštrović. And his sculptures can be found throughout the world, actually, in the United States and throughout Europe. He immigrated to the United States when Syracuse University made him a professor of sculpture, the first professor of sculpture, which elevated our arts program to #1 in the country at the time. This is shortly right after World War II. He was in residence at Syracuse University for about 10 years and created many internationally recognized pieces. He was lured away eventually in about 1955 by Notre Dame. So he kind of worked his career, the rest of his career out at Notre Dame, where he created a lot more famous sculptors. But his legacy of artwork can be seen all around our beautiful campus and in the beautiful Salzberg medallion. So you see a kind of an example. That's a copy of the Salzberg medallion right there. So we've got 2 Salzberg recipients this year. And this year, our first Salzberg recipient goes to a practitioner. So the award is based on either an individual or organization that has made a significant contribution and a lasting impact to the field of transportation, logistics, or supply chain. So this year's Salzberg practitioner recipient is awarded to Patagonia. Accepting award for Patagonia is Todd Soller, Vice President of Global Supply Chain for Patagonia. I'd like to invite Todd to come up along with Chancellor Severud and Dean McKelvey as I read the Chancellor's citation and present the medallion. So I have to take my glasses off to read this. Patagonia has been an industry leader in clothing and gear for the outdoor enthusiast since its humble beginning in 1957, with the manufacturing of handmade climbing equipment in a backyard garage. Since its founding, Patagonia has always held core values that balance the importance of social and environmental responsibilities equally with business. Patagonia pioneered sustainable supply chain practices and fair trade long before others recognized the importance of these causes. Patagonia has achieved global recognition as a champion of the environment by continually minimizing the environmental impact of their supply chain, while at the same time investing in the communities in which they source materials. In a world where unfair labor practices persist, where child labor is all too common, where the impoverished are frequently taken advantage of, Patagonia is leading by example. As a certified B Corporation, Patagonia has demonstrated the highest standards in social, employee, and environmental performance. Patagonia's efforts in educating the necessity of protecting the environment, contributing to improving the communities in which they and the consumers rely on, have earned the recognition of Syracuse University with awarding of the Salzberg Medallion. In witness hereof, I hereby place my name and the university seal on this 13th day of October, 2022. Ken Severud, Chancellor and President, Syracuse University. Yeah, I got Ann come on next. Actually, you could stay there for a moment. Okay. The second Salzberg Award recognizes leadership and supply chain impact in academia. I would like to invite Dr. Ann Robinson to come up. Ann is the Chief Strategy Officer for Canaxis to provide an introduction to our academic Salzberg recipient, Dr. Jan Fransoo from Tilburg University in the Netherlands.
Thank you so much for having me here today. For anyone who in the past 20 years has had anything to do with supply chain planning, operations, logistics, technical innovation, sustainability, human dynamics, or more recently, retail and nano stores, this man needs no introduction. However, since I have 5 minutes, I am going to share a few thoughts with you. In preparation for today, I reached out to former students, colleagues, and friends of Jan's for their input. And I received many, many stories of exciting research collaborations, of multiple nights of graciously hosted dinners in the Netherlands and elsewhere, late night academic review sessions with students and colleagues, and even the foresight to travel to a conference in Italy with an umbrella packed, though the skies were clear. And I was told that this umbrella was put to good use when the rain started, while two very prominent academics were left out in the rain. But there were four themes that permeated every single email. Dr. Jan Fransoo is a recognized leading researcher and teacher, industry collaborator, mentor, and friend. Jan is extremely prolific in the field of operations and supply chain management. His research studies operations, logistics, supply chain decision-making in retail, chemical, food, pharmaceutical, transportation, and the list goes on. He has published over 130 academic journal articles and book chapters and has authored multiple books. His recognition of the role of the human in the supply chain has enabled him to pioneer novel methods for understanding and characterizing decision-making in supply chain that's been recognized as a major innovation to the academic discipline, as well as an insightful contribution for industrial application. Jan has always been keen on interacting and collaborating with practitioners to learn from them and then examine ways to improve their operations. Professor Chris Tang at UCLA shared that Jan even flew to Los Angeles from the Netherlands to join him to meet up with Nestle, USH supply chain team, to learn and examine their chocolate supply chain, which is apropos for today's student presentation. This on-the-ground investigation trait and ability to empathize with the practitioner makes him uniquely equipped to examine supply chain and retail operations around the globe. Mentorship is a gift that Jan shares with others. Dr. Jose Velasquez Martinez from MIT shared a time when Jan was a visiting faculty member at MIT, and he was still a student. He was working on a paper and got a lovely analytical result that he was excited to share, but recognized that Jan was at a conference in London and didn't figure he would hear from him until Monday or Tuesday of the following week. Instead, Jan responded, say, I'll land at 7 p.m. in Boston. Why don't we meet at 9 p.m. at a local Cambridge pub and bring the paper? Jose fondly remembers the 2 to 3 hours of music and noise discussing the paper and learning so much. And many of you may not know that in addition to his day job, Jan is also the president of the International Korfball Federation, the world's only gender-balanced team sport. He's held this title for nearly 20 years, a testament not only to his leadership skills, passion for the sport, and desire to see the next generation of players thrive. I personally met Jan when I was a PhD student at Stanford. We met through joint coursework through Stanford and Eindhoven on global collaboration, for which I've managed to talk myself into being a teaching assistant, which is also a tip for you graduate students here. At the time, Jan and I shared an interest in ERP systems and their implications to industrial modeling. As I was at a crossroads in my dissertation work, trying to connect a strategic view with operational execution, Jan helped focus my research in a way that bridged both perspectives. He ultimately became one of my dissertation committee members. Ironically, my day job these days involves significant amounts of bridging strategy and execution, and I certainly attribute some of this success to Jan's guidance and direction. I'd like to end by paraphrasing a quote from Dr. Chung-Yi Lee at HKUST. Jan's considerate and thoughtful nature, as well as his industry-related research insights and high academic content, make him a great collaborator and mentor. He understands that people play a key role in supply chain management. He has made and continues to make a great contribution to our profession. He's a selfless colleague and friend. So with that, it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce my inspirational colleague and good friend, Dr. Jan Fransoo.
So I'm pleased to read the Chancellor's citation for Professor Fransoo. Dr. Jan Fransoo, you have distinguished yourself as one of the preeminent academics in the field of supply chain management. Throughout your career, you've been a leader in solving logistics problems throughout the world. Your work has led teams to help the European Union build logistics infrastructure, as well as distribute vaccines. Your collaborations with companies and other stakeholders in the field generate important research questions that address social and environmental impacts of supply chain decisions, particularly those in dense urban settings of developing countries. Your work with Nanostores promotes sustainable economic growth for millions of small mom and pop stores throughout the world. Other research looks at the impact of supply chain decisions for millions of small suppliers in agri-food and other industries. In addition to being widely published in top journals, your two recent books focus on supply chain needs of these nanostores and the role of supply chain decisions for increasing sustainability. Your efforts in solving complex problems and educating others on on other sustainability and social impact of the supply chains have earned the recognition of Syracuse University with the awarding of the Salzberg Medallion. In witness hereof, I hereby place my name and university seal on this 13th day of October 2022. Kent Severud, Chancellor and President, Syracuse University.